Welcome to this course on conscious listening. Listening is an amazing skill, but it's not a natural skill. What we're aiming to do in this course is to make you into a master of conscious listening, somebody who can really listen to people who will then love talking to you. What we're going to cover in this course is listening skills such as the filters that we all have that change our reality. We're going to look at each of those filters, and we're going to look at later on the ways in which you can play with those filters to change your reality consciously. We're also going to cover the three kinds of listening: inner, outer, and created. We'll explain exactly what we mean by each of those and look at how to become a master in each of those spheres of listening. And we'll look at 5 practices for conscious listening. The 5 exercises I really recommend that you do almost daily if you can, which will turn your listening into a conscious exercise all the time. To a degree, this is a conversation about overall consciousness and about presence in the world. With powerful conscious listening, you'll find you're so much more present for other people and to everything around you. We'll look at the greatest threats to listening and the ways in which you can avoid those threats, the things that are tending to take away listening from so many millions of people in the world today. And we'll cover also some advanced listening techniques, ways in which you can move your listening to a whole new level in all sorts of different spheres, whether it be a business sphere or personal relationships. So that's what we're going to cover in this course. Let's start by looking at listening filters. Now, not many people are aware that we listen through filters. Most people think there's sound around me, I listen, it's natural. Well, actually, there's an awful lot of sound around us most of the time, and we select what we're going to listen to. And that selection process that's what's interesting here, because we use filters to select what we actually pay attention to. That's pretty unconscious. There are parts of the brain which are choosing what to bring to your attention. You go through life, and if somebody says your name, for example, then that is brought to your attention very, very quickly. So pattern recognition, those kinds of things are going on all the time. The filters start from a very, very early age. We start to develop these filters. And they start with really big things, the culture that we're born into, for example. Different cultures have very different filters, different ways of listening, different things that are acceptable, things that we wouldn't pay attention to at all. For example, if you're in a culture where animals can be a threat, you will listen to noises in grass very differently to the way that you'd listen if you come from a Western culture where the idea of an animal being a threat is a remote ancestral memory of some kind. So cultural listening can be very, very different and change our relationship with the world around us. Language plays a role also. In some languages in the world, for example, there's no concept of time. Now, if you can't say tomorrow or yesterday, your listening to the world is extremely different, I think you'll find. So language plays a role too, and indeed some of the tonal languages in the world, Chinese languages, for example, where the sense of the word you're saying is completely changed by the way in which you say it, the way you pitch it, and the way the pitch inside of the word changes. All of these things change the way in which we listen to language, to the world around us. As we grow up, we come into contact with lots of influential people, starting, of course, with our parents. And we, to some degree, absorb their values, their beliefs, their attitudes. We assimilate them from different sources, and we start to form our own mix of values, beliefs, and attitudes. That mix of powerful filters, again, affects the way that we listen. We may have political views, which make it very hard for us to listen to somebody who completely is antithetical to our views. Or we may have religious views, which again cause us not to be able to listen to certain people, or to listen in a very positive way to other people. All of this filtering goes on, much of it under the radar. Much of it is not conscious. We're not aware of the fact that we're filtering all of this sound around us and choosing what to pay attention to and choosing what our relationship with that material is when it comes in. And then in any given situation, we're going into a conversation with a loved one or a business colleague, we have listening filters there as well. We might have an expectation for the outcome or an intention. Those will change the way that we listen to the person also. And indeed our experience, and we'll come on to this later in this course, our experience can create a listening for somebody where we remove their permission. We remove permission from them to change effectively. We take away their permission to be different from our listening for them. So filters, all the time, operating, and what they do is they change our perceived reality. So in a big way, sound is affecting your reality all the time. Your filters, of course, are totally different to mine because you grew up in a different environment, different people have influenced you, and your filters are unique to you. They're not the same as those of any other human being. As unique as your fingerprint, your voice print, your irises, your listening filters are yours alone. Interestingly, what that really means is that we all have a different reality. We all listen in different ways. So you could put 10 different people in a given situation and they'd all be listening in a slightly different way and they'd all have a slightly different reality. Now, if that sounds a bit weird, there's a demonstration that I used in the introductory free seminar on Udemy, and I have no apology for giving it again because it's a very powerful demonstration of the way in which your reality can be changed by the senses interrelating. So it really does bring home the point that what you hear and what you pay attention to is not necessarily reality itself. And this is the wonderful McGurk illusion. I'm very grateful for this particular demonstration of it. It was given to me by Professor Arnt Masso, who's at Bergen in Norway. I met him quite recently at a seminar, actually, and he's delighted that I'm using this. What you need to do is look at this guy as he's speaking and listen to what he's saying. So here we go.
Ba, 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 ba.
One more time.
Ba, 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 ba.
Now, most people are hearing da da.
Ba, 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 ba.
Now close your eyes.
Ba, 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 ba. Ba, ba.
He's actually saying ba ba.
Ba, ba.
And indeed on the video, he is saying gaga.
Ba, ba.
So they've combined a video of gaga with audio of ba ba, and your brain puts those two things together and says he's saying da da. You can't override this. If you look at him again, you will hear da da. So what you hear is not necessarily reality. Now that's fascinating, isn't it? That's a cross-modal effect. It's a very powerful one, and it shows that we have to be conscious of the way that filters and our attention changes what we perceive. This can be extremely powerful, as we'll later discover when we look at using those filters as control surfaces to become conscious about changing our reality and changing our listening to be appropriate to different situations. Those are the filters.